Hello and welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th Anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, April 8th, 2014, honestly, not much was going on. Baby Prince George traveled abroad for the first time. The lovely Patricia Arquette turned 46. The number one song in the U.S. was, you guessed it, Still Happy by Pharrell Williams. And no one will be surprised to learn that the number one movie at the box office was Captain America, the Winter Soldier, which had an extreme impact on the most important thing that happened on this day 10 years ago, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 17th episode, Turn, Turn, Turn. It aired on ABC at 8/7 Central. Hello, I'm Jamie Gregg, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and level 1 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, Tony Paletto. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, everybody in the chat. Thanks for joining us for a very special episode.
Yes, I'm very excited to bring out our guest of honor today. You know him as the star of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Philip J. Coulson himself, Clark Gregg.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. Happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like I have a really boring background. Okay,
Dude, look at my background. Mine's not good either. Don't sweat it.
No.
You got something back there. Okay, dimensionality.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
It looks great. Clark, we're so excited that you're here. We're a pretty new podcast, so having you on is very exciting for us. It's been a while since I've seen you. It's been like 4 years since we've been on a Zoom together.
It's true, but we only had a few very hard and fast rules on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. One was don't be a son of a bitch Hydra traitor, and the other one is never ever say no to Jamie Gregg.
Oh, that is sweet. Keep that in mind, everybody.
Who you were the host of our first screening, our first cool screening we did.
That's crazy that it was the first because that was 5 years in, and that was so much fun. I made a lot of friends because of that. Yeah.
Okay, maybe you're the only one I remember.
Good. That's great. Keep that in mind. Clark, we usually start the show by asking our guests what they were doing 10 years ago today. Were you watching this episode? Did you have like watch parties with the cast in those early days?
So, we were spending 22 episodes. It's a thing of the past. We were season 1 of Marvel's first foray into what we then called the small screen. And, as it's been said often, it was a crazy, bumpy ride. We felt like we were the offspring of parents that weren't necessarily getting along. And that there was kind of big Marvel and Marvel TV and ABC. And we were just trying to figure out and also we weren't really allowed to reveal any of the things that will be a big surprise to Tony.
Yeah.
We had all these villains of the week and nobody was able to know that they might have been friends. So we were very eagerly waiting this. And it was also, a crossover, a tie-in with Captain America, Winter Soldier. So I think we had been to the premiere of that and I'd seen some old friends from the big ship and this was an exciting thing. So I don't remember if we watched it together.
I do feel like I've heard you say that when you all watched Winter Soldier, you were together though, and you were kind of collectively shocked. Like, do we have a show?
Oh wait, yes. You know what? You're right because is this? I mean, I haven't watched this episode and probably since then.
No sweat.
I do believe that there was a reason why. I guess when we were shooting it, we had to find out some devastating information about a colleague.
Yeah. So we did watch the episode. So we do know that John Garrett, played by Bill Paxton, is the clairvoyant. We know that Ward is Hydra and working with him. That is how the episode ends. So don't worry, you can talk about that.
Up to that point.
I thought we're about to watch it.
No, we're not watching it. We're talking about it.
Okay, good. Because last time, you're going to have to remind me of a lot of stuff. Because last time Elizabeth Henstridge did a kind of rewatch.
Oh.
And I was given a lot of grief for telling too many stories. So this
No,
is
that's
not
great.
Your
This is
stories,
better.
man.
This is good to know how I explain what the podcast is to our guests. I've learned something today, but so that's okay because we
you guys have watched it.
Yeah, we watched it. Tony has seen it. So,
Yes.
and we recognize that you haven't done this in this episode in 10 years. So we're
I
not
would
going to
have
ask you.
watched.
No, you're
Oh,
good, man.
That's amazing. That's just this is gonna make it more fun, I think.
Yeah.
So you had 119 episodes after this one, so we'll see what sticks.
Yeah.
Before we dive into it, before we start talking about it, I do want to address our audience and thank everyone who's watching live. We know
There's
you've
an
all been waiting
audience?
for this. There's a little bit of an
Yeah, man.
audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Okay. I was like, wow, I need
really
to be
gotta
better at
read the
this.
thing. No, I'm just kidding.
But I think some people are probably joining us for the first time, so I want to let them know the point of this podcast is we do every episode on its 10th anniversary, which means if all goes according to plan, we'll be doing this until 2030, which will be the 10th anniversary of the final season, which means Tony doesn't know anything that happened after Turn. So if you are talking in the chat and you want to discuss spoilers that happen after this episode, just tag it. Just say spoiler alert to protect all of our first-time watchers, because we hope that Tony is not our only first-timer in here.
Yeah, I need more people who are as unknowing as I am. It's more fun that way.
Yeah, he needs pals. And we also we will have some time at the end of the show where we'll kick Tony out and we'll talk more about the more spoilerly things. And Clark, if you accidentally spoil something, that's fine. It'll only be
I'm
funny.
gonna try not to.
Okay. So this episode, it was written by the Jedmo, the Dream Team, which is no surprise because it's a really good episode. My first question about that, Clark, is was their style different in the early days? Because everything progressed so much over the 7 years.
I think there was a lot of relief because we were finally able to really get into what was really going on, and especially as you said, having seen the movie where SHIELD or this organization that we work for is riddled with Nazi Hydra bad guys. And as you said, we definitely drove home from the thing going, this might be our last episode. But of course, this kind of really just opened it up in a way, and it sent everybody, including our friend Nick Fury and our small band of newly come together SHIELD agents off on the run.
Yeah, and the episode was directed by Vincent Massano, and this was his second of 11 episodes. He previously did which is one of our favorites, and he is tied in third place for directing the most episodes of the show. So I'm guessing that he's someone you got to know in his directing style.
Yes, absolutely. Vince's brother is also a director, and he had directed me in an episode or two of West Wing, and so it felt familiar to hear his voice. He did, as you said, I think the Sixth Fizzed was such a great episode, and he was somebody we just felt comfortable with right away and did really great episodes. So he's someone who showed up as much. He got very busy, I think after second or third season, and we'd see him, a few less times a year, but he was there throughout.
Cool. And of course, this episode takes place while the Winter Soldier is happening, leaves Coulson and the team unsure of who to trust as Hydra comes out of the shadows. So we usually, first talk a little bit about our overall thoughts on this one. And I'm a big season 1 defender, but a lot of people say that this is when the show really takes off. So do you remember a shift in how the show is perceived at this time? Do you remember feeling that way, a change from audiences?
I mean, yes. I mean, it has to be said that I was really, really dead. I was really, really dead after the Avengers. And, it was a surprise, probably 6-8 months, a year before that, to get a call from Joss and Jeff Loeb saying, we have an idea, You're maybe not so dead. You think you had a close call. And then Joss, I was like, wait a minute. We can't undo the Avengers. But then Joss had this kind of incredible idea, I thought, which was, explained the pilot where you walk away and he goes, they say he doesn't know. Oh no, that he was kind of brought back from, death with unholy alien technology. And, of course, Joss broke it down in mythological terms. You don't get to come back without paying a cost. And I think that runs throughout the whole series. But, next thing you knew, Joss was off making Ultron, and I was now, I'd met them during Much Ado About Nothing, Jed and Mo and Jeff Bell, and they were very much running the show. And, I guess, I don't know, I think people thought they were going to see kind of Tony Stark blazing by every week. And, we were trying to figure out the tone of is it an ABC show with a lot of love triangles, or is it, a comic book brought to life? And so when we finally got to do the part where we were looking at this code unravel and seeing that it said Hail Hydra on set, there was a kind of palpable chill, but also, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. This will be kind of exciting. And we were doing, live tweets and stuff. And, a lot of people who'd stuck with us were really psyched. They were like, I thought that maybe what was going on here. But also it really created this environment where, how much do we know at this point about who's Hydra?
Are you asking us?
Yes,
I'll tell you from my point of view. So I've watched Captain America: Civil War, or Captain America: The Winter Soldier a number of times. We watched it and did it on our Patreon, and then we watched this episode immediately thereafter. And all we know is that at this point, Bill Paxton has been revealed as being Hydra. Ward has been revealed as being Hydra, but have very confusing thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
Pull up episode 17 to just
Google it
through it. I don't want to spoil anybody. Yeah, that was a big, heavy deal. So Brett had been our kind of, sexy good guy agent, and then he started murdering people we cared about.
Yeah,
and including, I'm not going to say anymore.
You can say we know Hand. He kills Victoria Hand at the end of this episode. So this is
Do we know anyone
end
else?
sadly. Just all we know is Victoria Hand.
And he killed the guy who was filling in as the clairvoyant. Brad Dourif killed him.
One of the heroes of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The clairvoyant stuff scared my daughter so bad that she stopped watching it. For a while. It was like,
she was.
But it was a heavy day. I mean, that's what I was thinking of, is that when we were about to shoot this, we were shooting something else down at that racetrack near the Forum, and they pulled us out, all of us out, the main cast out to a trailer at lunchtime, and we read new pages. And in those new pages was the new ending where Ward kills Victoria Hand. And Ian looked like Bambi after you killed her mother. His mouth was moving, but nothing was coming out. I knew I had been told this a little ahead of time because I needed to talk to Brett, who was also having a bit of a meltdown. And, because he was hired to be one guy. And I was like, I think you've known all along. And you've been doing the most incredible performance. And he was like,
right.
Okay, I can get with this.
It works upon rewatch. I think the writing does an amazing job of planting seeds. Even if Brett didn't know the seeds were there, it comes through really well. And
he knew for a while. He knew a bit, yeah.
I do have to ask, so since the people I think want to know what Tony feels about this, what Tony thinks.
Man.
Tony.
I'm shook. So I don't mind telling you, Clark, that Agent Ward has pissed me off so much over the course of this first season. Like, he'll do something really capable and good, and I'm proud of him. Like, good. I think you're turning it around, Ward. And then he'll do something fucking stupid, and I'm like, no. And so to have him just go off the cliff like this was very surprising, because I didn't see him as being capable of that extreme. I just thought that he was emotional and sometimes unreliable and kind of a douche. But now it's a whole new color, and I was quite shook. I'm mad, and then I'm also confused because he's over here trying to set up a date with Skye, this kind of optimistic performance. And I mean, the level of subterfuge that he was executing is running pretty deep. And so I was quite taken by it.
Yeah.
As someone who has no idea what's going to happen, I take it to mean I think he's just confused, you know?
That final shot, there's a final shot of him, the post-credit scene of him just staring off in remorse, and Bill Paxton is prattling on about some war story in the background, and he's just lost, doomed expression. So I'm sure he's confused, but he also has been part of this operation for some time. So he's a liar, you know?
Well, he's a spy.
By trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Clark, so even you didn't rewatch the episode, my bad, but we'll kind of dive in a little bit and hopefully jog some memories. The episode starts with Paxton with a great needle drop of "Don't Fear the Reaper," and shield drones are trying to take him down. It's just a great way to kick off the episode. And I feel like because I was like, what episode do you want to pick? And you pick this one, and I feel like, so we can talk a little bit about Paxton. And you've had some cool guest stars over the year, but I think he's kind of the coolest. And do you remember when when everyone found out that he'd be on the show?
No, I don't.
10 years is a while.
I don't remember when I found out.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember, when did I first see him? I think he came by. He came by while we were shooting one day, and he was there. He was like outside my trailer, or even in my trailer, and he just was. I don't know. He was like my brother from another mother. He just was so. I love what you guys are doing with this. I'm so psyched to be here, and just. I think he'd watched an independent film that I'd written and directed, and we were talking about that because he was a terrific director. And it just, I don't know, I enjoyed working with him. I enjoyed hanging out with him so much. Was such a great guy. And I thought he did a terrific job playing, different than a lot of roles he's played,
Yeah.
And, and I was just, I was very sad when he passed away.
I know.
Of course.
Could not believe that.
The thing that I really loved about sorry, Jamie. The thing I loved so much about his work in this is from the beginning, his character comes on and he is, and I said it in our previous episodes, I'm like, this guy's a little dangerous. He's like kind of a cowboy, but there's also like sort of a glee for violence in him that I was like, this is a little bit off-putting. Like, I don't know if this is a good guy. And then he would have this really sweet heart-to-heart with Skye in a later episode, and like he was very mentor-like. And I'm like, okay. But then kind of back to the sort of venomous kind of character. And so he did really good work laying the groundwork for someone who's revealed to be a Hydra agent. He's just a really good actor. Did great stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I thought he represented. This is one of the fun things about the show is that we were kind of deeper dive SHIELD agents that then got much time in the movie. And even I love Winter Soldier, but the levels of betrayal of people you're on the day-to-day with, I feel like we got to explore that in some more psychological detail on a weekly show. On our show. And I thought there was a way his character was this kind of a hired gun, kind of old school, kind of dangerous, but you got the feeling like, God, I guess they need a guy like this. They do. They're out there. There's a lot of, and there's certainly, if you read anything about kind of covert operations or intelligence services, I guess I do sometimes, is there's a lot of people out there who are they an independent contractor or are they really an agent pretending to be an independent contractor for deniability purposes? You know what I mean? And, they know no one's coming to get them, and it kind of breeds a certain kind of cowboy.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think he managed to, and I think he was this way, especially in some of the earlier stuff when he showed up. There just was it's fun to go on a mission with this guy. And he's
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
where he kind of likes Fitz, and he's mentoring Chloe, and
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You're talking about the betrayal of it all, and this episode has some intense Coulson versus May stuff going on, because he just finds out that she's been secretly reporting to Fury, and he thinks maybe she's Hydra. He doesn't know who to trust, and there's this crazy showdown with Coulson, May, and Fitz, and you get angry in this episode. At one point, you yell to Ian, "Open the damn door!" And I feel like you don't get to be angry a lot on the show. And when you do, it looks very freeing.
Yeah.
Coulson tries to stay cool.
Yeah.
And he fails sometimes. Like Clark. Yes, and that's very much where the part that was really fun. I think you see this in a later season in a different scenario when nobody quite knows who's who. And when the truth is off the table, nobody feels safe. Trust goes out the window. It might be happening on a larger scale in a country that we know. And those are the scenes I remember. I think is the scene in 17 where with the showdown with Ian and
So
I love you guys having to talk around.
I know. We're like, it's okay. So yeah, we will talk there when Garrett admits that he's Hydra, because you kind of,
that's what I'm thinking about.
It out. Yeah, Ian in that scene, Ian's crying.
I go, wait a minute.
Yeah, you figure it out because he mentions Raina, and it clicks in in Coulson's brain, and Ian's crying, and he's so good.
He's great.
He's so great. He's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that scene where it's
like a standoff between you and May. Ian behind the glass.
But also with the one with Paxton.
Yeah, that's
the
later.
One
yeah.
with
that as well.
Ian, that's in this episode, right?
Yes.
Where I put it together.
Yes. That's where it all comes out.
And he's going to kill us. So he's going to kill Ian, right?
Yeah, he's going to kill all you guys. Yeah.
He's trying to get you to be Hydra, and that's where you have the best line in the entire show, which is, "I would die before serving Hydra, you sick son of a bitch."
Yeah.
You really lay it down in this one. Yeah. So that do you remember specifically? That's the scene you brought up. Do you remember it filming that one?
This is the really hard. Oh yeah, this is what I thought. I'm looking at it. I have Miss
scrubbing
through. This is it. The sons of God. I still feel so betrayed. I remember how. Ian. I remember putting this together and realizing I didn't see it as Coulson. I didn't see it. I didn't put this together in time, and now I've put all of my people in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's just a level of kind of, especially late. Oh yeah, there's something later in the season where it stops really feeling like a show anymore, and just I've screwed this whole thing up. Yeah,
love that.
But again, also like, finally,
red meat.
We're connected to the larger worlds of the Marvel stuff that's going on, and because once that happens, God knows who could show up in the remaining episodes.
Oh, who knows? I don't know. I have no idea. I do want to bring up
see WandaVision show up. So.
Don't tease me. That's the crossover of my dreams.
Oh my God.
I want to bring up, Clark, that in this episode you shoot down the drones and you say "booyah," and that has become like the most notable GIF or GIF, if you say, of the series. I feel like I see that image of you saying "booyah" more than anything else.
I do. You see "booyah" out there more?
Yeah, all the time I see "booyah."
"Booyah" might have been an improv. They weren't good. They really wrote me good stuff, but
that's what I wanted to hear.
"Booyah" was from me.
I feel like at least once a week I see that image of you.
"Booyah."
Yeah. I want to talk about the Ward and Sky scene because I know that Tony's chomping at the bit on this one. And so, Clark, to catch you up, a few months ago, I interviewed Brett for his new show, Found, and I, of course, asked him a Shield question, and I didn't realize that Tony could hear me or hear Brett, and Brett was like, "Well, I died 3 times on that show." Like, whoops. And Tony, did you think he was gonna die?
No,
Oh,
I didn't think that. No.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, Clark, I have been like so careful because I want to go into each one of these episodes brand new, not get spoiled. I'd stay away from sub forums and things like that. I don't look things up on IMDb. I ask Jamie questions and she parses out answers as I need to hear them. And the one person to spoil anything from this show was Agent Ward, which is hysterical. So no, this
now
one,
you know why he got killed so many times.
Yeah, he had it coming. I didn't think at no point did I think he was going to die in this episode. It didn't cross my mind. When he went out into that big brawl into that hallway, leaving Sky in the other room, great fight, and that looked like him doing it too, which was really cool. I was confident that he was going to get a victory in that scene. Glad that he did, because so shortly after rooting for him, I was then rooting against him, which is turn. That's what the episode's called.
Yeah.
I don't know if you clocked that Bill Paxton says turn in the previous episode when he's talking about how he trained Ward and now Ward is training Sky. And as soon as he said that, I was worried that you were going to figure it out because knew, because we were talking about how Clark was going to be on turn. So I thought that you were going to clock it early, but I guess not.
Didn't clock it. I do so much mental work trying not to think about this show. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's really hard. There's a Aquila name drop, and Clark, in episode 4, I spy your like old protege Aquila Amador is the episode's about her. And Tony, I broke the news to Tony that we're never going to see her again. I don't normally tell him things like that, but I just didn't want him to wait 7 years for somebody who was never going to come. But they mention her a lot.
Quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
We do?
And you mentioned her a lot throughout this season. And I was wondering if you remembered that and if she was ever supposed to be a recurring character.
No, I mean, if I wasn't in the writer's room.
Yeah, sure, fair.
But I have a sense of it. I think that they start out with a lot of colors.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things. And I know we were all crazy about that actor.
She was dope.
But I also think, and that was certainly part of one of the earlier storylines where we're realizing somebody's controlling these people ruthlessly, that they're doing things they may not want to be doing. And I think about that imagery a lot. So I think that it was just one of those things where you never know, especially later seasons. I can say this safely. Later seasons, there was things that were pretty far down the road of plotting out what was going to happen, what was going to be used. Because at a certain point, as the parents took a little space from each other, there was less and less. There was less and less that they were able to use from what was going on in Marvel Cinematic because they were busy making a lot of movies with it. And so I know that Jed and Mo and Jeff and the writers had to kind of start, well, what's not being used? Let's go into the deep cuts category of Marvel stuff. And I know a couple of times very close to when we started shooting, they got a kind of memo going, can't use that. And all of a sudden they had to kind of, and I think that especially the stuff in those first 8 or 9 episodes was really hustling to try to build up some idea of a larger antagonist without giving away where we were going. They were kind of tied into knots and told to swim their way to the surface.
Yeah.
So I think once in this particular chapter that's just begun now is very much when it's the most closely aligned with exactly what's going on in the cinematic.
Yeah, that's the thing about this episode is like I was watching it and getting towards like the climax, and I was like, "Is this a fucking season finale?" Because it feels like that. There's so much going down. Like this is such a dramatic.
I know that's how I thought. It felt very much like that.
Yeah. So I'm excited that like we have another 4, 5, 6 episodes in this season to just unpack. I'm more on the edge of my seat with this show now than I have been yet.
I will say when the series ended, I made a article for Comic Book that was the top 10 best episodes, and I was trying to be as objective as possible, and so I ranked this episode number 3. It's not my personal number 3, but I do think like it's just such an important, amazing episode, and it is crazy that there are 5 more to go.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Whose list was it if it wasn't personal?
Well, I was trying to be, it's like on behalf of comicbook.com. It's not like just me. But I will say my episodes were in there. I just shuffled them around to please the greater community,
That's very working.
It was a soft sellout.
Very wonderful.
Yeah. There was no episode on that list that I didn't believe belonged there. I'll say.
There you go. Yeah. Speaking of rankings, this landed. So I'm in ranking my episode by favorites. This is number 2, Under, which is still my number 1. And so it's cool to learn same director. Love that.
Yeah.
I think I would agree. And so we've kind of, got through the episode. We find out in the end, Ward is Hydra. I will sometime, listeners, post this week Tony's reaction because I secretly filmed him watching that scene. And, but I do want to ask you about Saffron Burrows, Clark, because I love Victoria Hand. First of all, just style icon, but she's just cool. And as great as her death is, because it's Ward, it makes me sad that it means she's dead.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, I loved her. I think we have some friends in common. I was thrilled when she showed up, and then, as happened a lot in seasons, but especially that season, then the next episode came in, and I was like, wait, I have another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent with some power here, please.
Yeah.
I like that she was, she's been so antagonistic and just unkind and unsympathetic. So at the end of the previous episode, she says, kill everybody on board except for Coulson, he's mine. So I'm like, there's that turn. I guess she was just very obviously crooked the whole time. So to have her be revealed to actually not be Hydra and just putting everybody else through this grueling test of loyalty was a really cool turn. So I was like, I just got rejuvenated with excitement for that character, and then out.
Yeah, they call it buying back. It was a great buyback.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm always such a sucker for when they kill people I like, though, because I like to feel the pain of TV. So I
it's not my favorite.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Well, it works for you because you can die a million times somehow.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, we are going to take a quick 30-second break. So if you are watching, you need to refill your drinks, anything of that nature, we will be right back. And then we have some questions for Clark that some people sent us to ask. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. We're here with Clark Gregg talking episode 17, Turn. Clark, you filmed this episode from January 30th to February 7th, and we are constantly talking about how insane that is and how impressive network TV is. As an actor, just what were your biggest challenges for that kind of turnaround? Because I just can't fathom it.
Honestly, in an episode like this, you've got long, tense dialogue scenes where, big realizations are happening and betrayals and things that are, you can't just spit out some exposition. You got to show up ready to play. And one of the things I loved about the show, and I think a lot of us did, is that we kind of we talked about a little bit the bumpy first season. We also, I had famously got in some trouble pretty early on. I was at some kind of press junket on set, maybe four episodes in, maybe 5, and some contentious blogger, reporter was like, what do you think about the fact that all the Marvel fans have already checked out on this show?
Ouch.
Damn.
And I was like, my family has this thing where you're going to fuck around, you're going to find out. And I was like, well, then those aren't Marvel fans. So the geeks have all checked out. I was like, those aren't geeks. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, this is the first time Marvel's ever made a TV show. This is a brand new cast. A lot of people have never been on a show. If you only were going to wait 4 episodes before you checked out, I have to ask, how geeky are you? It was, people were coming after me. He said we're not geeks. He said he's defensive. I was like, I was a little defensive.
Yeah, it was a rude question.
But I also had a thing where, and this is where there was this bleed over, but all of a sudden he's not just attacking my livelihood. He's attacking the livelihood not only of my 4 or 5 people who've never been a lead on never been a regular on a show before, my young stallions, he's also, I definitely felt like it's on my shoulders to make this thing work. Even
though Coulson came out
realistic. I just was like, and what got me going was there was the bumpy ride of it. What was the question? There was the bumpy ride of
just the idea of like how quick these episodes turn around. Yeah.
Right. So then we get to 17, and in an episode like this, not only are you trying to act these, this is it. We quickly realized like a ragtag band of SHIELD agents. That was the code name of our show, as you may remember in the early seasons, because you couldn't even have the name of it on a call sheet. Ragtag. Nobody's here for us but us. Nobody gives a shit about us. Nobody's got our back. We are just going to put our heads down, and we're going to believe in the show, and we're going to act the shit out of this as much as we can. And the only way it works, because a lot of times you're talking about some crazy ass stuff and, made up terms and, the dark hole, never mind. It only works if you imbue it with 1000% life and death.
Yeah.
So you got to act those scenes that well. Then you've got fight scenes that need to be choreographed intricately so you don't break. There were more. Now it can be told. Ming tore her ACL. Chloe fractured a bone in her forearm. She got hurt numbers of times. I had my bicep detached from my body doing a stunt episode number 2 of the show, and had to be flown on the Disney jet to get surgery in New York and back for episode 3. This is what happens even when you're training so hard. Because the other thing is, we were very competitive. Everyone wanted to do the greatest job in the fights. So to kind of do all that at that pace was a lot. But we also felt really lucky. And we had a team. But then I got to say, the people who were making, the budget was tiny. Tiny. The spaceships, the jets, the blah, blah, all these subterranean bases. It's all 2 sound stages that they're repurposing in a couple of I don't even know what they are, missile silos out in Los Angeles desert that we get for one day. So the crew who was able to redress and shoot that stuff and come up with the wardrobe that sold it. It was really, people say this a lot and people are like, yeah, they got to say that. No, our job was hard as shit, but it was fun. And theirs was fun. They assembled a bunch of people who really loved the show and loved the world of it. But what the production team did and the directors and the writers week in, week out to kind of make this final 5 episodes of season 1. We were also driven by the fact that we were always on the bubble.
Yeah, I have a question about that later when Tony leaves, because the bubble.
They'd be like, we'd hug it out. I may never see these people except maybe socially once in a while.
Right.
Yeah.
And you bringing up all these people, I will take any opportunity to shout out Mark Kolpak, because what he does with the effects on the show with that budget it'll always impress me. 10 years later, I'm like, that looks pretty good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are reasons to think that other people who have tried to make sci-fi / comic book-esque TV shows have found out it's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the show is definitely more expensive looking than it was. And it's impressive stuff on there. Good shit on screen.
I also want to bring up the music, because I this is probably my 10th time, 11th time I've seen this first season, but I'm really bad at clocking music, and this is something I've really been trying to focus on. And I read that Bear McCreary, he created themes for Centipede and the Clairvoyant, and a different one for John Garrett. And then when he found out that they were the same thing, he found himself in a quote, a bit of a thematic mess. But then, of course, he figured it out because he's awesome. And do you remember honing in on his work over the years? Because, you don't really know what the music's going to be.
You mean over the years when we were making the show?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's another really great example of somebody who's already talented. It's an insane resume, incredible stuff on The Walking Dead, and a lot of stuff I love. But like one of the things that we were proudest about the show, this won't spoil anything for Tony, is whatever they pull off at the end of season 1, in large part, they're going to tear it all down and start over season 2. And the show shifts sometimes in its full-on like structure as the seasons go along. And Bear, like a lot of other people, refused to phone it in. He really dug and really found different, as the show kind of got darker and more like a graphic novel, in my opinion, as it went along. He really adapted the score, and it went from being kind of his own version of something that you would imagine would be a Marvel show on TV to this other thing it became that ended up playing very well on streaming.
Yeah. So some of our listeners submitted some questions. So thank you to everybody who did that. I wish I could ask them all, but we don't have the time. So pick some out. And friend of the show, Jackie, she had some like really hard hitting questions, and some about just the state of the industry in these post-strikes world, and specifically brought up how shows seem to be getting canceled more and more. And you brought up that S.H.I.E.L.D. was always on the bubble, but it still prevailed. Do you think that network TV shows, especially like genre shows, are they in danger? Or is it like it's a whole different game?
It's been announced. I 2 years ago, I went to Vancouver with one of the writers from the show, Paul Zbyszewski, Paul Z, who was show running Snowpiercer with Jennifer Connelly and Daveed Diggs. Fantastic cast. Sean Bean, I went up there, did a wonderful season with them. They're season 4. And the studio that was making it halfway through the season, I'm not going to be able to know which one it was, stopped making narrative content. So they dumped it and took a tax write-off. It's going to come out that they're going to air Snowpiercer start on AMC starting the season this summer, but it went away. And I was like, 5 months in Toronto. Again, all these people pouring their heart and soul. They're not like punching a clock. These people are working really hard to do a great job of this thing. And I haven't seen it, but I think we did some cool stuff. And people have done that lately. Batgirl, right? Mm-hmm. Something else.
Yeah.
A couple things. And
Roadrunner, Coyote.
Yeah. And, as you know, there was a strike.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I think it's what's being sorted out, in that there are people who have one kind of relationship to this material, the people who make it, the people who watch it, some of the people who, whose studios produce it. They also have this love of it. But there are also ways where the corporations that put out this stuff on streaming, even corporations that make really cool stuff like Amazon and Apple, this isn't their business model. This is probably part of their marketing budget. I don't know. It's just not the same as it used to be. So they're trying to find their way. I think, if anything, if you would have told me crazy sci-fi fan that I would be seeing this much cool sci-fi on TV and that so many people I know would be into it, I'd have been thrilled. I'm thrilled that there's this much cool stuff going on. But it's a very strange moment. And I think the answer is proper. I always, when I'm trying to figure out what's going on in our business, I always think it's probably not dissimilar from what's going on in all the businesses, primarily in our country, which is the technology is leading us. And so we end up kind of chasing it where it wants to go in terms of monetization, in terms of where people are watching it. And at a certain point, people go, wait, I don't feel like it should be driving. I don't think our lives should be a self-driving car yet. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a bit of like, wait, if we still get to decide this, what is it we want it to be? And the fans have a real voice. It's one of the things that, as someone who was lucky to be in the first Iron Man and some of those movies, what it was known for early days, and I think what made Marvel as much as the tone that John and Joss and Kevin Feige and Lou D'Esposito and everybody came up with together, and Robert and Jeff Bridges and Gwyneth, they took footage to Comic-Con. And when the fans had an issue with something, they wouldn't necessarily pander to them, but they listened. And there was a way where Marvel was really a company that was, in a very different way than used to be the case anywhere else, really connected to their fans. And now they've got this thing where there's generations, parents and grandparents taking their kids to see this stuff. And now it's all under the Disney umbrella.
Yeah, it sure is. I think everyone wants to know if you've been keeping up with the MCU. Like, because of the Disney umbrella, there's so many shows happening.
Yeah, I mean, I still have Friends. I still am very excited to see what Friends are doing. I watch almost all of it. I'm always like one or two behind because, as you said, there's so much. But if Kobe Smulders is going to show up somewhere, I'm definitely going to watch, or Sam. Mm-hmm. And also, they get people like Ben Mendelsohn, who I got to work with in Captain Marvel, or Emilia Clarke, who I'm just a huge fan of, or Elizabeth Olsen. I watch the stuff. It's so fun to watch what they're doing.
Yeah, cool. It's great. We have some more questions, but we have to kick Tony out first. So, Tony, before you go, was there anything else that you wanted to say about Ward?
Fucking Ward. No, Clark, you had a line in here that really cracked me up when you said somebody was saying something. You said, "Cut off the head, another one returns in its place," and someone goes, "Is it a head or is it a limb?" I think it's a limb, and you go, "It's a head." It just made me laugh. Just the bluntness.
It was a good line.
The dryness of Coulson really gets me sometimes.
Head, dude. This is old stuff. Come on. I gotta watch.
All right,
I gotta watch. It's the great thing about doing this for a while and being old is you get to go back and watch and go, no idea what's going to happen next.
That's amazing.
This Ward guy? He seems so nice.
Yeah, he's just
like when I order Amazon, it's like Christmas every day. What is this going to
be? Yes.
Oh my God.
Tony, do you want to say goodbye? Give some shout outs to people who might.
Yeah. Let's do some thank yous. So thank you to Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials. She did our artwork. Thank you to Ryan Miera of Yellow Pills at Yellow Pills Music on Instagram. He did our awesome music. Thank you to our producer, Maria. Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome.
And thank you to our very special guest, Clark Gregg. Clark, it was such a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
All right. Have a fun chat. I'm only a little bit jealous.
Really quick before Tony leaves, I do want to shout out some of our overseas listeners. Kirsty from Australia, she's hoping that Clark comes to visit a con there. We've got
I've tried like 3 times to go to that thing. I really want to.
There's still time. Felipe from Brazil told me that Turn was released before Winter Soldier over there, and that sounded like a nightmare. So I want to acknowledge him and that devastation. Everyone else, follow us on Instagram, like and leave reviews. If this is your first time watching, thank you. Share it with your friends. And for now, spoilers ahead. Goodbye, Tony.
I'm leaving the room. Bye, everybody.
So what'd you think of
really
Tony?
sorry. Really sorry. What cute. What do I I just now I'm feeling so bad for the people in Brazil.
Oh, right? I know. I that's wild. The release schedule in general for all things will always confuse me.
Yeah.
So everyone, this is like the big thing that everyone always wants to talk about, which is now that we're in the multiverse, like the canon question, which like you don't know, nobody knows. Kevin Feige won't say, and you do know.
I
in
have
your
it
heart.
here. It's a big
Yeah.
book. I have it here. I can look in there right now and I will show you. Fully canon. No, I'm sorry.
In my head, it's the same timeline until the snap doesn't happen, and then the last 2 seasons are like a fun branch timeline. But either way, Coulson's dead, so it's like we can bring
not
him
in
back.
every timeline.
Right.
Look, you can't be playing in a multiverse scenario in various timelines without you being like, I don't know. There's many multiverses here.
Yeah.
People are very upset about whether things are canon, and
I
I love that. Like Kevin is the Oz. He's Oz.
Yeah.
He says. People get very upset about it.
I know. I've joked that I want to get fuck canon knuckle tattoos just because of how much sick I am of the questions coming up.
I kept seeing in the early live tweets, people kept going, this is my headcanon. This is my headcanon. I was like, that headcanon just blew my mind. And they were like, that's not what a headcanon is. I was like, oh, I don't know. I've never heard this one before.
I want to shout out our listener Jeremy, who's a collector, and he has a lot of props from the show, including the Darkhold. And Be
careful, Jeremy. Jeez, we were wondering who had that.
And he basically, of course, he wants to know if there's anything that you got to keep that you still cherish today.
I mean, I could answer that, but
you can answer. Tony's gone. You know,
they would come and no. If I answer that, then they're
going to come. I see.
A red Corvette that's outside. Of
yeah, they're wondering where's that giant car.
It's not Lola. This is Prince's red Corvette.
Oh, I love that. My thing is about this episode that I couldn't talk about in front of Tony is that this is a really good Felinda episode. At one point, May says to Coulson, like, you mean a lot to me. You don't know how much you mean to me. And I'm the first to admit I was not a shipper until like season 4. But I go back and I'm like, why wasn't I thinking about this then? And like, I feel like you guys weren't either, though.
Ming was.
Yeah. Yes.
No, there was definitely something because we were the age appropriate relationship, but then I had Rosalind. There's an episode, I think it's in this season. I don't think it's
Amy Acker is coming in 2 episodes.
There's a thing where where she's been hurt. And I'm
that's earlier in the season. It's
yeah. And I remember as we were doing that, I was like, this feels chemically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do rewatch and I'm like, how did I not see it from the start? Because it's there. I saw one of our listeners asked what Disney Plus show you would want to be on, and I know that they meant Marvel, but my thing was like, what about Star Wars so we can get a Ming reunion?
Yes, sorry. I mean, I love my Marvel. I've had a great run. I would do anything to be on Andor. I think it's the best show. I think it's the best show. I just love what they did so much, waiting for that Star Wars dig into the meaning of the fascism of the universe and the heroism of the people. Early days going, something's very wrong here. I got very Tony
Gilroy, what he does, like
God knows any Marvel show. Please, hey, any Marvel. God, I love Andor. I just love Andor.
I couldn't agree more. It's fantastic. We do have to end on, I guess, Secret Wars is coming, and I know that they don't know yet who's going to be in that movie, and I know that even if you knew, you wouldn't tell us. But I will say that the people want to see you in Secret Wars.
That's really sweet. People do still kind of. I just love that there's a connection with Coulson. I think because he was such an early part of the thing and the kind of human face of the world. And, but the canon of people that they feel that way about has grown. And, there's plenty. It's hard for me to go, yeah, it's not right. I had 10 great years.
Yeah.
Maybe 12. Yes.
Exactly. I mean, I'll never say no to it. Like, you're keeping me in business. I got this podcast for another 7 years. So
yeah, I have to say it's nice the way that people still care about and talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I will say that within the last 7-8 months, I have had a meal with, I think, every one of the original gangsters of S.H.I.E.L.D. Dinner in London with Ian and his girlfriend, and a really fun night with Jeff Ward and Chloe recently. And I stay in touch with everybody. Elizabeth,
I love hearing that.
Hung out with Elizabeth, had dinner with her in Atlanta not long ago. Like, we're all still very close.
Everyone's gonna go Atlanta. That's that. You said the key word there.
That's where she lives.
Yeah. I speaking of, that's the perfect final question. It's such a bummer that the final season of the show happened in lockdown, and then the 10th anniversary of the show happened during the strikes. Could you foresee some kind of reunion in the near future, a con reunion, something where you come back together, since you never really got that final group thing?
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
Great.
I can't speak for those guys.
You heard it here. We won down.
Yeah.
I want to just tell everybody to go check out Thelma when it comes out in June, because I'm so excited for this movie. This cast is stacked. And I wanted to just give you the opportunity, if you wanted to just mention anything that's coming up, you want to shout anything out, plug anything.
Yeah, thank you. Thelma's a really, really good indie that I did that was at Sundance this year, that's coming out June 21st with the 95-year-old action star June Squibb. And it's just a great cast. Parker Posey, Fred Heckinger, Richard Roundtree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great flick. Snowpiercer is going to be coming to AMC. And I'm here in New York shooting a really cool limited series for Netflix called 0 Day, starring this up-and-comer Robert De Niro and Angela Bassett.
Wow. Do you get to share some scenes?
I can't talk any more than I have.
Okay. That's the journalist in me popping out. Because it's this podcast. Why did I even ask? Clark, thank you so much for being here. It means so much to me. You're always just, I couldn't ask for a more supportive star of the show. I love.
You felt like family to us immediately, and I really appreciate it.
That is so sweet. Thank you. Thanks to everyone in the chat who's been here watching live. Thanks to everyone who's going to be listening when this episode releases. We'll be back live on April 14th for Providence, the first Patton Oswalt and Adrian Pasdar episode of the series. I'm so excited for Tony to meet the Koenigs and for Talbot. That episode will drop on April 15th. Clark, any final words for our listeners?
There might be some snow in the episode Providence. And all I can tell you is that was some bad smelling snow.
Amazing.
If they tell you they're going to do snow, don't let them use what they call reclaimed water.
Oh, no.
That's it.
Wow.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. Hopefully we will get to see you again.
Terrific.
Farewell. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.